You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
This market is probably as bad or as washed out as it's been in 40 years. And typically when we've seen this in the past, this is right now is when you can make the big torquey moves, five times, 10 times your money, just in the catching the cycle of these markets. And if you want to come back and start, doing M&A in a year or two, it's too late. All these prices will be moved up massively.
Welcome back to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers, getting an update from Fury Gold Mines, one of our MSE sponsors, with CEO and Director Tim Clark and SVP of Exploration, Brian Atkinson. Gentlemen, welcome on to the show. As you've been coming on for some years now, we've been talking about the Eau Claire gold deposit, high-grade gold deposit in the James Bay region of Quebec. Some more infill drilling was just announced. Brian, could you walk us through what you put out with this press release and the significance of it, please?
Yeah, definitely. So it's just built on, we discovered the hinge target 2 years ago with hole 41, and we've been building on it since then. And so it's infill, but it's not infill on the resource. It's infill converting this target to a resource, which we're looking to do. And it's been really consistent. We've got 19 veins modeled out there in 2 separate corridors. We're hitting them, within a meter or two of where our models are telling us we're supposed to hit them. It's, it's this big zone. It's 400 meters long strike. We've got 300 meters vertical extent defined so far. It remains open in all directions, and it's just been super consistent, which is going to help us build ounces as we model this in the new year.
When would that new modeled resource be available to the public?
We're still waiting on results from 11 holes at the hinge. So those will come in, between now and end of January, we're hoping, and then so we'll probably look towards the end of Q1, early Q2 for putting out that updated resource.
Tim, welcome to the show. I have some exploration companies that I was an investor in at the beginning of the year that did no drilling. Some of those I had to sell for tax loss. You laid out a 15,000 meter program, but your press release says that you accomplished 19,000 meters. Could you talk through that, please?
Well, that's really a question for Brian, because his team is the one who did it. But, what I think investors, and one of the reasons why I emphasized it on the press release was, it's you the little things that you do as a company that you keep constantly doing are the value creation that is what you're looking for as an investor. And if you see a company that's putting out 15,000 meters or targeting and putting out 19,000 meters, that's a good thing. It's a 27% increase over what we were planning on doing. Plus, we saved another $1 million this year that we didn't have to spend on top of that we're going to now put into the project next year. But it's, look, the important thing about the Eau Claire resource is we want to get this resource updated. It's been 3 years of drilling. It needs to be quantified for everybody. And it's good. And the idea is that once we have this set up, it's going to give us more flexibility to even go more out into new discovery. Percival is great. 2 weeks ago, we had a huge hit out there. Last year, a hit that was a much lower grade than what we got there set the stock up 100%. So there's huge potential out on the eastern side and along the Canard Deformation Zone. And again, Brian and his team have done all that work and survey work, and we intend to go after it. So that's the focus, really.
Brian, for the 2024 drill program, will you be looking at more grassroots exploration versus developing the Eau Claire project as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, this last bit has been, sort of allowing us to quantify the work over the last 3 years at Eau Claire. And, just show that there's resource growth and resource potential, because that was one of the hang-ups at the acquisition was, there's quite a bit of drilling into it. Is there additional potential here? So if we show this growth potential, leave it open, out to the west and down dip as well, it allows us to go out and, explore other targets along the canard. We did some work out at Serendipity, which is up to the northeast of Eau Claire. We've got some really nice anomalies at Snake Lake. We've got another 14 anomalies out at Percival that we never even touched with the drill bit, where we did some infill, so we'll be better targeted there. And then out at the La Clarke property, we continued out that soil survey out there along the Canard Deformation Zone. So definitely be looking for a lot more sort of regional prospect drilling and that. While, we'll put some holes into some where we think there's some interesting potential still at Eau Claire, like the Gap Zone where we hit meter at 45 grams last year, and we didn't get a chance to follow up on that this year. So, and then we've got the joint venture with Newmont at LU North South, which, I think there's some really compelling targets there. We've done some really grassroots work out there, and we'd like to be up there drilling next year, with or without Newmont. We'll, it's something we like, and we're just going to have to go up there and not sit on our, back pockets waiting for Newmont to come in and participate on that.
Tim, your Committee Bay project in Nunavut, any plans for that in the new year?
Well, I still think it's a bull market kind of place to go, because it's big money to get up there to invest with the details of investing in the Arctic. But it's a huge prospect for us, and we know it's got value. It's got, I believe, 160 million already put into that property in survey work and data work. There's 100-person camp there. We've got our fuel halfway up there ready to go. We've got a landing strip. It's interesting, especially now for the larger companies. So when we were out at a couple of these conferences 2 years ago, no one was even looking at them. And now we've actually spent a lot of time sitting down with some of the larger companies looking at that area for development. And again, these companies, these large producers are getting themselves boxed in because they need bigger properties. They can't get the scale on a 2 to 3 million ounce resource like they can a 10 million ounce resource. And that's the land of, elephants up there. And that's where we want to really provide the upside to the stock potential of new discovery. There is a hole that we couldn't really explain that we got last time, and we want to go back and figure it out. Brian's been working on that. The idea for me would be if we could get a joint venture partner of some kind up there, that would be ideal. But again, the market's going to tell us whether it's the right time to go up or not. We still have so much drilling in Quebec that we don't know what to do with, and a lot of it's a new discovery. So that's the plan.
So your relationship with corporates, you have obviously the Eleanor JV with Newmont. You had an earlier press release announcing a corporate investor. Can you talk any more about how you see juniors interacting with corporates moving forward in the sector?
Good question. And I think not talked about enough. I think that the pools of money have been harder and harder to get. And as everybody has seen in the market, it's hard to raise money. And at the end of the day, the ones that have the most alignment with the juniors is really the producers. And the producers want the juniors to find things so that they can develop them later. So for me, if you're looking at this for holistically, $2,000 gold, a lot of these producers are making a lot of money. And where are they going to put the money? They should be putting it back into CapEx and the junior space. So from my point of view, if you don't have a relationship with a producer or a big brother per se, I don't know what you're doing, because it's as any business, I've done in the past, if you don't have an alignment or an exit strategy, then how are you going out and raising all this money? It's much harder. And a lot of these producing companies too, they have land, they have resources, they have technology. There's a lot of symbiosis there that you could take advantage of. And, as from Fury's point of view, we have 2 of the 3 largest companies invested in us. and we're trying to work with them because they've got properties that they'd like to explore that they can't. They don't have enough time or the resources to get there. So they're paying a lot of leasing fees that they don't even use. And a lot of the land is probably pretty exciting. So we're digging into that and we're looking at it as well as we're looking at other companies. I think in this market right now, I think a lot of people are probably pretty frustrated, but this is when you buy assets. This is not when you sell. This market is probably as bad or as washed out as it's been in 40 years. And typically when we've seen this in the past, this is right now is when you can make the big torquey moves 5 times, 10 times your money just in the catching the cycle of these markets. And if you want to come back and start, doing M&A in a year or two, it's too late. All these prices will be moved up massively, and that's what we're kind of exploring.
Tim, can you go over the treasury? Because an exploration company, with the way the market is now, anytime the market sniffs out, they're going to need to raise money. That you always see the downtrend in the stock. But Fury's treasury is a little more robust than most, isn't it?
We've been really conservative. We've cut our expenses 50% in the last 2 years and cleaned up a lot of stuff. We also raised a bunch of money just selling us some Dolly shares a year and a half ago. We never spent. And
it's Dolly Varden Silver for those that don't know.
Right. Yep. Dolly Varden Silver. And we own 59.5 million shares of Dolly Varden at, I think the last time I looked, it was around 51 million in equity value, and our market cap's only 65. We've got about 8 million plus in the treasury right now. And so we're in pretty good position. I know I just came back from the Zurich conference, and someone said to me they felt that a third of the companies had no money, zero. And I've seen companies out there looking to try and raise, and right now, and unless you have a unique situation, they're not getting the money. And so I think this is this is when, as a student of business, you sit there and you listen to your professor, or you listen to these CEOs. This is the time when they made their careers because they invested and held on and had cash in the worst possible markets, whether it was real estate or anything else. This is when you come out the other end and you can make your whole business career and company being in the right place at the right time with cash. So we're taking a real look at things around us and trying to figure out where to be prudent. And we're not going bankrupt. Even if we spend out our $8 million and need to go raise some cash, I've got 51 million in equity in a stock that I think is monetizable. So I'm not worried about it, and it's a luxury. But this is something that we thought about 2 years ago.
So another thing investors look at, as you know, is the lead executive's investment in the company. Your cost basis is around 75 cents, right? So it's about a good 50% higher than our share price now.
No, that's 75 cents US.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm down a lot more than that. Listen, I've said this to other people, and I think it's important to follow up. For me, I put a lot in, and a lot of it's all came out of my retirement money, and I've more importantly brought in 2 or 3 of my biggest investor relationships in my career. Fidelity being one of them, and they're our largest shareholder. And I brought in family and friends, and I was just out yesterday in Boston with a couple of them, and they bought more. My stepfather doubled down in September, and what he liked about it was, and I think it's worth sharing, is it wasn't just a trade on Dolly. He's like, look, you've got all this Dolly shares and your enterprise value is so low. It's not just a trade on Dolly. I don't invest in companies that I don't think want to grow or have an upside to being a bigger, better company later. And he's like, to me, I get a free option on all that you're doing at Fury, all the things that you've done the last 2 years to create value. And I would share that one of the meetings I had at one of these conferences, a very smart investor who's done this for 30 years and owns dozens of mining names, he came up to me and said, look, he said, you got two things going for you. One is you got cash. Cash is king in this scenario, in this industry. And two is you've done everything you've said you're going to do for the last 2 years. And that shows a track record that's really valuable that a lot of people don't have. I think we've created a culture in our team that is unique. When I sit down with some of these majors, their guys have met all my guys, and they have nothing but nice things to say. I sat down with one of our brokers yesterday, and they said to me that there's no complaints about how you're running and what you're doing with Fury. The problem here is the market, and the problem is the lack of liquidity in the junior space. But that will change. And I think my message to investors now is I'm not asking you to go out there and buy a huge chunk of Fury, but I think you'd be prudent to buy some, because once this market moves, because of the lack of liquidity, you'll have a hard time getting in at a reasonable price. And you'll be sitting there self-doubting yourself as it's up 50%, wondering if it's going to go up 100. And if it goes up 100, you're going to be killing yourself that you didn't get in. And just get in something, start seeding it, and not just Fury, just a package of goods, because that's how you make real money in your portfolio. That's smart portfolio investing. And I look at Fury as a great vehicle in a time where a sector is completely washed out. Now, the risk is the sector never comes back, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the amount of money out there, gold is a continue to be a global currency. It's a neutral currency, which is unique. It's not, China doesn't own it, US doesn't own it, Europe doesn't own it. It'll be forever a very valuable currency. And right now, the central banks around the world are buying massive amounts of gold because of the political risk that's going on. And what I think this market's waiting for is US interest rates to drop. We don't know when they're going to do that, but that would be a signal and the next catalyst for the sector. Meanwhile, you've got a company with Fury that continues to drill, continues to not worry about money. We will finance at some point. That's a smart thing to do as a junior. We just don't have to do it when our share price is down. We don't have to do anything because we have this great position in Dolly. And on the Dolly side, they've had 5 drills going this summer, not 2. They have 70% of their drill holes still yet to release. They have a major that is positioning itself to take it over, with Hecla just buying another $10 million worth, upping their ante from 10% to 15.6. That's a good sell signal, for that company to be sold. But it's going to take time to work this stuff out. You just got to put your money in and not be looking at it as a day trade, but as an investment in this big uplift in the cycle. I've over-talked myself, but that was important stuff to get out.
Well, thank you for sharing. Brian, any final thoughts? Maybe give us a preview of the upcoming press releases.
Yeah, like I said, we've got 11 hinge holes remaining to come out, and 5 holes still out of Percy Val, 2 of which were exploration holes out on some of the other anomalies that we like out there. So, we're hoping, to be quite newsy through till, the end of January next year, and then we'll be working on the 2024 program and getting that the updated resource out as well at that time. So pretty busy times going ahead.
Okay, well, Fury's ticker symbol is FURY on the big boards in Toronto and New York. And to learn more, you can go to furygoldmines.com. Gentlemen, thank you for this update.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.